Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're really getting into the weeds on satellite internet, looking specifically at 2025.
Right. It's moving so fast.
Exactly. We're not just skimming a headlines. You, our listener, sent over this really comprehensive report, Starlink Competitors in Satellite Internet Landscape 2025.
Yeah, it's packed with detail.
And our mission really is simple.
Mm-hmm.
Pull out the key stuff. Who's actually challenging Starlink? What are their different angles, their strengths, weaknesses?
And what does it all mean for global internet access down the line?
Precisely. Okay, let's dive in.
Absolutely. And, this report really paints a picture of a market heating up. One company gets a lot of the press.
Starlink, yeah.
Right. But the reality on the ground, or rather in orbit, is much more complex, more dynamic.
No question. And the report starts right there, acknowledging Starlink's, commanding lead.
Mm-hmm.
Over 7,300 satellites, it says.
Well,
5 million users. That's huge.
across 125 countries, too. It's a formidable position to be in. That's a really high bar for anyone else trying to get in.
It really does. And a big part of that is the tech, right? The low latency from LEO, low Earth orbit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Compared to the older GEO satellites, it's a game changer for responsiveness. But the report digs into the challengers, several key players.
Right. Each with their own kind of strategy. Let's start with Amazon. Project Kuiper.
Kuiper, yes. Amazon jumping in was a big signal.
A very big signal. The report mentions their goal, 3,236 LEO satellites.
And they've started deployment. 27 launched back in April, according to this.
So they're on their way. But what the report highlights is really interesting is their core advantage.
Yeah, and it's that integration, isn't it, with the whole Amazon machine.
Exactly.
Think about AWS, Amazon Web Services. Their massive retail side.
Their logistics.
Right. The potential to bundle internet with everything else they do,
Yeah.
reaching all those existing customers.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's like embedding connectivity right into their existing empire. But it's not all smooth sailing. The report points out the cost.
Oh, yeah. Huge capital investment. Around $10 billion, it says.
10 billion. And there's always the risk of delays, right? Production, launches.
Absolutely. Building and launching thousands of satellites. It's a monumental task. That financial piece is critical.
And scaling production to hit those targets, that's going to be a real test for them.
It will. Okay, so shifting focus across the pond, Eutelsat OneWeb.
Right, the French-UK venture. They're interesting because they've actually finished their initial constellation.
Yeah, 648 LEO satellites done. Global coverage achieved late 2023.
So operationally, they're kind of ahead of some others in that sense. Global reach now.
Mm-hmm. And the report flags their unique edge.
First GEO-LEO hybrid operator.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. What does that hybrid approach actually mean for users?
So basically, they're blending the old and the new. The wide coverage of traditional geostationary or GEO satellites.
The ones further out. Right. With the lower latency, the faster speeds of their new LEO constellation closer to Earth.
Okay.
It means they can potentially offer more flexible service, maybe more resilient too, using the best of both worlds for different needs.
Sounds versatile.
And they've also done successful 5G non-terrestrial network trials, NTN.
Which opens up possibilities for connecting directly to your phone, even out of cell range.
Potentially, yeah. Seamless mobile satellite connection. That's pretty exciting.
Seems like a smart strategy, covering different bases. But the report also mentions financial pressures from their older GEO business.
Exactly. That's the balancing act. They've got this established traditional satellite business.
Which still needs attention, presumably.
While also pouring money into this new LEO venture. It's a tricky position to manage financially.
Okay. Then there's Telesat Lightspeed up in Canada.
Right. A smaller initial plan, 198 LEO satellites.
And they're aiming for service starting in 2027, so a bit further down the road.
Yeah, their rollout is later compared to Kuiper or OneWeb being operational.
But their advantage, according to the report, is strong government backing, Canadian government support.
Mm-hmm. And a real focus on underserved regions.
So carving out a specific niche, not going head-to-head globally right away.
Seems like it. And the government support, well, that can mean funding, regulatory help. It's a big deal.
Focusing on those unconnected areas also taps into a huge global need. Could be good for specific contracts, maybe government ones too.
Definitely. But again, that later start date is a disadvantage for grabbing early market share.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly. The report also covers the established GEO players, Viasat and HughesNet.
Right, the incumbents. in a way. Both U.S.-based, both using those higher geostationary orbits.
Viasat's main hook, it seems, is unlimited data. No extra charges, no caps.
Which, in a world full of data caps, that's attractive to some people.
For sure. If your main worry is just how much data you use and wanting a predictable bill.
Viasat looks good, but as the report makes clear, you have that trade-off.
The latency. Higher latency because the signal travels so much further.
Exactly.
That delay. And anyone who's tried, like, a choppy video call knows what that feels like. It affects anything real time.
Yeah, it really impacts the experience for certain applications. Then there's HughesNet.
Also, GEO, their angle seems to be leveraging their existing customer base and maybe more affordable pricing.
Right. They've been around. People know the name, especially in the U.S. The price point might appeal to a certain segment.
But the flip side, again, according to the report, is limitations on speed and data compared to the newer LEO guys.
Precisely. They're kind of facing pressure from these faster, often more generous LEO plans. Feels like they need to adapt.
Okay, now, this is where it gets really geopolitically interesting. China.
The report details Guowang and Qianfan and also SpaceSail.
And the scale is just, wow. Guowang planning up to 13,000 satellites. Tianfan aiming for 28,000.
28,000. And it's not just paper plans. They've launched over 100 already.
So they're actively building these out.
And what's really key here is that the report points out is the state backing. These are government-supported initiatives.
Integrated into China's Belt and Road Initiative, it says?
Exactly. So this isn't just about selling internet access. It's strategic. It's about offering connectivity, potentially, to BRI partner countries.
Creating an alternative to the Western systems.
Yes. It's a deliberate geopolitical move, building China's own global digital infrastructure that could lead to a more fragmented global internet.
Digital infrastructure as a strategic global asset. Makes sense. But the report also flags challenges for them, right?
It does. Things like higher satellite failure rates, apparently, and maybe some constraints on how fast they can actually launch all these satellites.
So huge ambition, but execution and reliability are still hurdles they need to clear.
Absolutely. Getting to those massive numbers reliably is a huge technical challenge. Then there's the other Chinese player mentioned, SpaceSail.
Right. Also LEO, aiming for 15,000 satellites by 2030.
And already expanding internationally, the report notes. Again, rapid plans, government support.
But with SpaceSail, the report raises a specific concern. The potential for these networks to, well, extend China's domestic internet policies abroad.
That's a significant point. It brings up questions about digital sovereignty, censorship, data control.
A different kind of internet governance model potentially spreading with the infrastructure.
Exactly. It's not just about the pipes, it's about the rules governing what flows through them.
So stepping back, the report gives this nice technical overview comparing them. And the key takeaway really is LEO versus GEO. Starlink, Kuiper, OneWeb, Telesat, the LEO guys generally lower latency, higher speeds.
Right. Compared to Viasat and HughesNet and GEO.
And that latency difference, it matters hugely for how you actually use the internet, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Real-time gaming, smooth video conferencing, even just snappy web browsing.
Right.
It makes a massive difference.
Especially if you're in a remote area coming from, like, super slow dial-up or unreliable connections.
It opens up whole new possibilities for what you can do online.
And the business strategies are all over the map, too.
Very diverse.
Starlink, direct-to-consumer, global push, Kuiper, leveraging that Amazon ecosystem.
Right. OneWeb seems more focused on B2B government contracts.
And Telesat, also enterprise, leaning on that government backing for specific markets.
Yeah, it really shows they're not all trying to do the exact same thing. Some want mass market, others are targeting specific high-value sectors.
And finally, those geopolitical angles we touched on, they're really important here.
Can't ignore them. China's push with Guowang and SpaceSail is clearly strategic, about offering alternative, shaping the digital future.
And Europe isn't standing still either. The report mentions Eutelsat's role in the EU's IRS program.
Yeah, indicating Europe wants its own autonomous capability in satellite communications. It's becoming a strategic domain for nations and blocs.
Economic growth, national security, digital sovereignty, it all ties in. So wrapping this up, our deep dive into this 2025 report shows, well, it's definitely not a one-horse race in satellite internet.
Far from it.
Starlink has a big lead, no doubt, but there's this wave of serious competitors coming up.
Each with different strengths, different strategies, different backing, some of it geopolitical.
It's a really dynamic space. Fascinating to watch unfold.
Absolutely. The report makes it clear the future of connecting the world is going to be shaped by this complex mix of players.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. Looking at all these players, Amazon, OneWeb, Telesat, the Chinese initiatives, the established GEO guys,
And considering their different technologies, their business models, the politics involved,
what factors do you think will ultimately decide who wins? Who really succeeds in bridging that digital divide and connecting the unconnected globally?
and maybe even more importantly, what does that mean for how we all access information, how we interact, maybe even how power is distributed in the world to come?
It's definitely about more than just getting faster internet. It's about the future shape of our connected world.
All right.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Thanks for listening.